to Joyful Movement Pilates and Wellness Studio in Fairfax, California, and this is Laura Marquit. I want to go through a really nice lower back series that has to do with downward dog. I love downward dog. A lot of times, most of the time, I see people doing it wrong, and I always wish that we could bring the Pilates concepts to downward dog because it's such a powerful move for stretching, releasing, and elongating. It's fantastic. We just really have to have attention to form in downward dog. So we're going to go through that now. So let's start on the ground. Let's start on all fours. So if you start on all fours, we could go through a whole series, which is great for the back. I'm going to assume that you have already done your pelvic tilts and done a little bit of a warm-up. And then after we've done the warm-up and maybe a little bit of low bridging, we could get on all fours. We want to have a neutral back position, and then we could just circle the hips around. Just circling around. This is a Feldenkrais move that I learned decades ago that I use all the time. Just circling the pelvis around, just doing freedom of movement. The neck can hang, the neck can come up, the neck can also move. Whatever's comfortable. You can go forwards and backwards. Okay, so circling the hips around. And then coming to a stable position, and then from here, let's curl those toes under, plant the hands in front of us, and go into downward dog. So curl those toes under, press up into downward dog. So when they call it triangle position, they're not joking around. You really want to make a nice triangle with your body. So the head is hanging through the arms, or you could hang it like a piece of fruit. It's a little less compressive to the cervical spine, to the neck, if you bring it in between the arms. Okay, so your glance is kind of right at your toes, right? And I'm lifting my sits bones up in the air. My hamstrings are really pretty flexible, right? Because I'm a Pilates instructor, and I just also have flexible hamstrings from doing gymnastics when I was young and everything. If your hamstrings are not that flexible, don't worry about it. Your legs might be up here, your heels might be up here, and they might be really inflexible. That doesn't matter. You can bend your knees and lift the sits bones, and you still have the elongation of the spine. Okay, and that's what we want. We don't want to be rounding. We don't want to be coming over our hands. We want our weight back towards our heels. Okay, now another thing is the shoulder position. A lot of people will just hunch their shoulders or shove their shoulders down. We just want gentle arm bones in the sockets once we're in this triangle position. Okay, and you can always kind of keep readjusting. You can bend one knee at a time. We want to get that nice elongation of the spine here. Of course, we want to be breathing. Inhale and exhale. Now that's a long time to hold downward dog, right? So when we're getting tired, let's come down into child's pose. And in child's pose, you could just hang your head here and sit back on your heels. If that hurts your knees, you can always come up off your knees and extend your arms out. And as you go, you might be able, as you practice this, you might be able to get closer and closer to getting on your heels. I actually find that child's pose over a long period of time is a nice stretch for the knees. And unless you have some really extenuating circumstances with your knees, you will eventually be able to do this, which is a great stretch for the low back. Let that head hang, and definitely breathing. Take a long inhale, hold it at the top, and exhale. If you ever get anxious, child's pose is the perfect position to get into, or downward dog, because your head is lower than your heart, which will just naturally release anxiety, tension, and stress. Okay, so let's review. We started on all fours. We pressed up into downward dog. We got the right form and alignment in downward dog. We focused on our breathing, and from there we went down into child's pose. Okay? So that's a nice series to do at home once you're warmed up after pelvic tilts and some low bridging. And now, once we do that, we want to go back on our backs to recreate neutral for ourselves. Whew. So just let the back relax. Take a long inhale. And now you could move on to your next move, whatever it is. Now we've re-neutralized the back. We could pull one knee into the chest. That's always a nice back releaser. And then we could just go from there. Okay? Great. Thank you so much for joining me today at Joyful Movement Pilates and Wellness Studio. Again, my name is Laura Marquardt, and I look forward to seeing you next time.